Hi everyone and welcome to Vintage Digital Watches. We are doing another quick repair video, or at least a repair attempt. But before we start, wristwatch check. I am wearing an Orient 64100. I do have 4 of these now, and just rotate them with a lot of pleasure. But back to the fix. The thing we are fixing today is, well, the watch is a Citizen C010 Voice Memo. Now, I bought this watch, and it's actually this one. This is the one that I wear. I bought this watch as part of a lot around a year and a half ago, and I didn't spend much time looking into it. I just cleaned it. All the module was clean, but it still didn't work, or at least the recording part didn't, which was pretty peculiar to me. Recently, I went back and wanted to have another look at it and try to diagnose where the problem was. Now, all of the boards were cleaned, they had no corrosion, so they were in pretty good condition. So what I proceeded to do is try to isolate the fault. And what I did, if you want to know more about this watch, do check out the first and second video that I ever did on my channel. They are all about the Citizen Voice Memo. You will see there a disassembly and a comment through all the components that are inside this watch. So just to show you a bit the fault. So everything works fine. You can cycle through the functions. All of the buttons do contact. Here I'm pressing the record, which is also the setting button. And the play function will also work if you're in alarm. But when we go to recording, we press record and nothing. Furthermore, when we press play, and I will just get my mic closer, hopefully you can hear this. It just make a click, it will make a click. That's the click, and hopefully you heard it. So I went ahead and used a good watch and swapped out the memory that holds the sound that you record. And this is a static RAM chip. It's a 64 kilobyte, and this board can be completely detached. And I swapped it with one from a working watch, and lo and behold, it actually works. So that means that the culprit is actually on this board. Now, I went a step further to try to isolate even more, because this board contains 4 components, and that is the memory. We have 2 components here, and on the back we have a control circuit, which is specific to this watch. It's not something removable. So I measured these 2 components, and they are identical in measurements to the ones on the good watch. So that means that the culprit is either the memory or the IC on the other side, which is not detachable. So the only thing we can do is, or the only thing we can change, is this RAM chip, if we had one, because these are from the 80s, and they are very hard to source, until I stumbled upon a few on eBay. I had a search activated for this, and I managed to source these ones. So what we will proceed to do is remove this chip and replace it with another one. Okay, so here is the board up close, and on the back we do have this blob of silicone which hides an IC that is specifically designed for this watch. On the top we have the generic Hitachi static RAM memory, and here we have another 2 components. So what we'll proceed to do is remove this from the board, and I will be cutting it down with a pair of precision pliers. My other alternative is to use plenty of solder wick, which I am going to use anyway at one point, and try to remove it from the board. But I won't do that because I do have replacements. And removing a chip like this from the board, if you don't have the correct tools, which I don't, you will just end up overheating the board until you manage to take this one out. So I don't want the stress of temperature, because I have the alternative just to cut the little legs off and then remove each remnant individually. So here we are with the IC removed, with the memory removed, and all we have to do now is remove the leftovers from the little legs, and we'll just use a soldering iron for this. Okay, so here we are a few minutes later after all these little feet have been removed from the board. Now all the pads are actually charged with solder still, but we will be using some solder wick, and this is solder wick if you haven't seen it before. It's braided copper with some sort of substance in it, and it will just suck out all the solder from the pads. You will not be able to use one of those pumps here. You will have to use this. It really does marvels. We'll just make sure we have some fresh, and I'll show you a demonstration. And you can see how clean it leaves those pads. Okay, so nice and clean. We removed all the excess solder, the old solder, and now we're going to take a Q-tip dipped in isopropylic alcohol and just make sure we rub them clean. We have to have those pads ready for the new solder to be applied. Okay, nice and clean. I did have at one point this taken off about a year ago, and I did try all the traces and they seem to work. I thought there was a fault somewhere in there. That's why you see this silver compound correction here. It's because of that. So I did test all the circuits. Okay, now attaching one of these components to the board, we are going to first put a small blob of solder on one of the pads, put on the memory, and then melt that one just so it's secure in place, and then we'll proceed to solder the other legs. There we go. Laying it on top. And we have to make sure everything is aligned properly. Now we're going to press on top and just melt this solder, and there we go. Now it's fixed in place, and I'll proceed to add some solder to the other points, but I will do that under the microscope and just show you the finished result. Okay, so here we are with the finished result, and we have to apply, well, we have to do some cleaning after the soldering as well on the new solder. I am pretty pleased with how that turned out. And now let's assemble it back in the watch, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Okay, and now for the moment of truth, and yeah, I think the memory that I have, because of the T at the end, is a little bit too tall for the watch to be closed. Okay. Let's go into record and press record. And nothing happens. So apparently that is not the culprit and this has been a failed attempt. Now I'm even pondering if I should upload this video to YouTube or not. So what's the relevance behind this video? Why even show you guys if this did not work? Well, in case you have the same issue, it would be nice to know that going through the trouble of changing this chip will not help you solve your problem. Thanks for watching the video. Hit that like button if you still like the video, because we didn't end up with a successful fix. Do subscribe. I try to release as often as I can digital watch related videos, reviews, fixes, tips and tricks and whatnot. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.